Right, the big story at this hour. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been arrested in London as part of a Swedish sex crimes investigation. The latest blow to the secret spilling website that faces legal, financial and security challenges. Now, Assange was arrested at about 9:30 a.m. GMT on Tuesday and was due to appear at Westminster Magistrates Court later in the day. The founder of the whistleblower website, Assange, has been hiding out at an undisclosed location in Britain since WikiLeaks began publishing hundreds of US diplomatic cables on the internet last week. Now, the spokesperson of WikiLeaks says the founder Julian Assange's arrest is an attack on media freedom and that it won't prevent the organization from spilling secrets on the web. I have with me two of my colleagues, Rishabh Gulati, who's joining us live from the newsroom in Delhi, and with him I also have Navneeta Sirkar, who's joining us on the phone line from London. Coming to you first, Navneeta, take us through the developments there. This is the big story of the hour for all news channels and the media across the world.
Yes, actually yesterday the British police finally took receipt of the correct paperwork for what is called the EAW, which is the European Arrest Warrant. And this morning, by appointment, Assange went to the police station in central London where he was arrested. And now today, at any point in time, he's going to appear at the Westminster Magistrates Court, which is seen as being just a stamping process, basically, for extradition. Because this extradition is different from people who are not within the EU laws.
Okay.
This is more like it does not have to go for a sign-off to the Home Secretary. So it is most likely that he will either apply for bail, he will be asked whether he'll apply for bail or he will contest, and it's likely that he's going to contest it. But, of course, you must understand what is going to be difficult for Britain. It's going to be a big challenge. Britain would want that he rather go back to Sweden. Instead, if the US suddenly comes up with certain laws or, regulations by which they can ask for his extradition from the UK based on his with reference to WikiLeaks. So Britain would rather not get into that and rather see him go to Sweden and let Sweden deal with the US.
Okay.
So it's becoming a very fast developing situation right now.
All right, Navneeta, I request you to please be on the phone line with us. I'm going to bring in our colleague Rishabh right now. Rishabh, clearly it's important to clarify that Assange has been arrested not on the ongoing revelations of WikiLeaks, but on a Sweden warrant that accuses him of sexual crimes.
Absolutely right, Akshay. And he's been arrested. He was accused of molesting or, in fact, even raping two women in Sweden. But let's not be fooled. Those are what the charges are about. But in the end, the bigger picture is about WikiLeaks. It's about the US government, the British government, and governments across the world, including his native Australian government, getting together to find and trap this man. We cannot confirm sitting here in India whether the rape charges are true or false. But what we do know is the persecution that has been followed to WikiLeaks, the financial clampdown, the several attacks on the website trying to bring it down, that persecution and the vindictiveness of the state authorities stemming from the State Department in Washington and now permeating across the world.
Right, Rishabh, stay with us. Tell us something, Navneeta. What kind of pressure are we looking at that has been building upon Assange? We do know that UK must have known about his hiding, so to say, for the past few days within England.
I think it was very clear that the UK did not really want to get directly involved in all this because, as you know, in this country, yes, there are very strict media laws, but there is a freedom in the media and there is no kind of control over the media. But the point is that the Swedish accusation is on rape and molestation and has nothing to do with WikiLeaks. So that is why there was pressure building. One was expecting something to happen, but one did not realize that it would be so swift. Because even Assange's lawyer last night did not hint that there would be an arrest today because he was meeting the police on appointment, so he had kind of agreed to go in and give himself up over there. And even on the charges of molestation and rape, there is, although nothing of it was published in Britain, but there is one of the women who accused him called A. She is known to be a very strong feminist and has written about 10 judicial ways of taking revenge and things like that. So
Right.
I don't know where this story will go.
Okay, Nabanita, also another thing, we know that Assange has been denying all these charges that have been levied against him. His lawyer has said that they will fight for his extradition as well. Where do you see this case headed? What's the buzz like in Britain at the moment? And we talk about this particular case where Assange has been denying his involvement. Rishabh very clearly pointed out, we sitting back here in India cannot verify those details. What is it like there in London? What are you hearing?
Well, there are too many pros and cons to the argument and the allegations. Assange has said it was consensual, the act that happened. She had invited him to her house. So it is very difficult, and that we'll only know once it goes into details. As you know, in the media in Britain, nothing about it was printed before today, and very little was known about it over here. It was only in the Swedish media. But obviously it is very clear that there is pressure because of the WikiLeaks. That probably is the bigger reason why Julian Assange is, wanted by everybody. But as I said, under the European arrest warrant,
Right.
It is not a very difficult thing for him to be sent back to Sweden, because Britain would like to stay out of the US getting in with some charges they form or some law they find where they can nail him on WikiLeaks, and then it becomes a proper extradition hearing.
All right, Nabanita, stay with us on the phone line. Rishabh, I request you to also stand by. I'm just going to come back to you. Meanwhile, let's tell our viewers about the other troubles that Assange is facing. Now, the European arrest warrant issued by a Swedish court reached the UK authorities late on Monday, and he has been arrested as of now. But Assange was believed to have been hiding in England somewhere all these days. Now, the whistleblower website says the freeze includes a defence fund and a personal assets worth €31,000. The developments come even as WikiLeaks continues to release fresh cables every day. Britain has condemned the leak as broadening terrorist groups' potential lists of targets. Senior US politicians have called for Assange to be extradited to the US, with some going as far as to call for his execution. Coming back to you, Rishabh, now, tell us, how is WikiLeaks really responding to this development over there? We are still looking at more leaks to come, even though Assange has been arrested, isn't it?
Well, Akshay, they're keeping some cards up their sleeves, but let us not be confused on what the bigger picture is. Assange, again, arrested in this case on rape charges in Sweden. But the bigger picture is that governments across the world, and if anything that the WikiLeaks has taught us, or the revelations have taught us, is how the governments across the world are working together in concert to put pressure on one man and trying to shut down this organization. And I'd like to bring to the notice of our viewers, there's an editorial written, an op-ed piece actually, written by Julian Assange, which was supposed to be published in the Australian tomorrow, but in the wake of his arrest, some of the snippets have been published by the Australian website. And he goes on to write that in 1958, a young Rupert Murdoch, then owner and editor of Adelaide's The News, wrote, "In the race between secrecy and truth, it seems inevitable that truth will also always win." And Assange makes a fair point. He says that the Australian government and the US government are saying, don't publish these, you'll risk lives, you'll endanger troops. At the same time, they say that there is nothing of importance. How can they both be true? If on one hand we are endangering lives, on the other hand there's nothing of importance, how can this both be true? So now the wider debate on the persecution of this man, will he turn out to be a martyr to the cause of whistleblowing? That now starts off, now that he's indeed been arrested, and as Nabanita pointed out, a very swift proceeding could put him back into Sweden.
All right, Rishabh, stay with us. Coming back to you, Nabanita, the other question that comes our way is really how credible are these charges that we're talking of against Julian Assange? Let's not forget, I mean, we're talking about in the history there have been cases where these countries have come up with charges against countries which haven't been able to come out to be true. So how credible are these charges is the big question. Are they to be taken at face value, Nabanita?
Yes, you see, that is what is being discussed over here, is how credible are these charges indeed, because one of those women has written pages apparently in Sweden in the media about how, there are 10 judicial ways to take revenge, and she's known as a very well-known feminist there. So I think his defense will come back and hit at all these things that she's been writing about. So it's not very clear. He said it was consensual. There was, I'm sorry if any of your viewers are listening into this with children, but there was some mention of condoms being used and not being used and things like that. So it's going to, it seems that it's not a clear-cut charge that the victims are making. So it seems very murky right now. But what is going to happen today at the Westminster Magistrates Court is whether he will be extradited or whether he will challenge this extradition.
Right. Also, if you can tell us, Navneeta, once again, as of now, when we look at the case, we know that Assange has been denying these. He's accused of being involved in these cases. They haven't been proved against him yet, so perhaps no charges are levied against him just as yet.
Yeah, it seems so, because today, after, you see, the procedure with the European arrest warrant is that certain correct papers have to be sent which will comply with British laws as well as with Swedish laws, and then Britain can take any action. But nothing of that has happened, because he went to the police station by appointment on his own, and then he was arrested there.
All right, Navneeta, stay with us. I'm coming back to you now. Rishabh, tell us about WikiLeaks. I asked you this question even before. You've been mentioning about the larger picture, but what can we really expect? Is this going to be, as you were mentioning, is he going to be made as a martyr of the whistleblower? Are we looking at some sort of restrictions being imposed on WikiLeaks now? Because, of course, all these revelations that are coming about are extremely damaging for diplomatic ties world over.
Well, that's what the US claims, that they're extremely damaging, and of course they are, because the Russian president wouldn't like to be known that he's been called a mafia boss, just like Afghan President Karzai wouldn't like to be told that he's been called paranoid. But they are damaging to a certain extent. The whole question, Akshay, which now comes in, is about freedom of speech and how the US government is using its muscle across the world, across governments across the world, to not only crack down on WikiLeaks. Remember, WikiLeaks is already under pressure, as much pressure as they could be. Amazon has taken them off their servers, their DNS host has taken them off, wikileaks.org has been shut down, they've had to shift to a different server, there's Swiss bank accounts was shut down today, a PayPal bank account with $80,000 in it was shut down today. There are various internet activists who are coming out to support the organization. They've set up 500 mirror sites of WikiLeaks across the globe, so that it becomes very difficult for multiple DDoS attacks to take down the server. So WikiLeaks is already under attack. But it's certainly no coincidence, Akshay, that the first time the allegations came off about these rape allegations was when the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs were published, and right after the diplomatic cables are published, an arrest is made. That's certainly no coincidence, and let us not believe it is.
All right, let's leave it at that. A lot of developments expected to take place in London during the day. Of course, we'll keep coming back to you, Rishabh and Navneeta in London, for bringing us all the updates where Julian Assange's story is concerned. With that, we